Phil Patton, who's going to bring a lesson and a closing prayer, dismissing our prayer. So I'm sure this will be Brother Ron Graham. I just want to remind you, Wednesday night, Brother Ken Adams will be bringing our gable, and Ken always brings us a good lesson. Try to make it every point you can to be here through midweek's Bible service. No for saying that our closing with our opening song now.
Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine. Heir of salvation, purchased of God, born of His Spirit, washed in His blood. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Perfect submission, perfect delight, visions of rapture never from my side. Angels descending, ring from above. Echoes of mercy, whispers of love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Perfect submission, all is at rest. I and my Savior am happy and blessed, watching and waiting, looking above, filled with His goodness, lost in His love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long.
Good evening. I would ask that you would take your copy of God's Word and turn with me to the 18th division of Psalm. Psalm 18, verses 1 through 3, and then we'll drop down to verses 46 through 49. Psalm 18:1. I will love thee, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my strength in whom I will trust, my horn of my salvation, and my high tower. I will call upon the Lord who is worthy to be praised, so shall I be saved from my enemies. Verse 46, the Lord liveth, and blessed be my rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted. It is God that avengeth me, and subdueth the people under me. He delivereth me from mine enemies, yea, though liftest me up above those that rise up against me. Thou hast delivered me from the violent man. Therefore will I give thanks unto thee, O Lord, among the heathens, and sing praises unto thy name. Pray with me, please. Dear Father God, as again we honor God before your throne. thank you so very much for last night's lying down and this morning's rising up. But we thank you most of all, Father, for that precious gift of your daughter and son, Jesus, who left the rich folds of glory, came down to this low land of sorrow, hung, bled, and died on Calvary's cross, that through obedience to your will, we might have a right to the tree of life. Thank you for this day and all that it's meant to us. We just hope, trust, and pray that the things that we will have done today will be pleasing and acceptable in your sight. And not only that, but they will go down in history to the glory and the honor of your daughter and son, Jesus' name. Father, we come praying for the sick and afflicted among us. Father, we ask that you would continue to bless those who are numbered on our prayer list. We need a special prayer. We pray that you continue to have Brother Otis feel your own men and continue to watch over him. We're praying for Lois and Sister Sheila, that you would bless her too. And we give thanks and honor and praise to you, and we ask that you would watch over Sister Yolanda, that she has traveled home to be with her mother, and just console and comfort them as only you can. And Father, there are others that Sister Ellen Poindexter is praying for her, Father. We're just so thankful that our prayers have been heard, that you've allowed Sister Bonnie Kitchen to be in our presence on this evening. Father, we continue to give you the glory and honor and praise for that. And Father, there may be others that we may not know of by name, but we know as Christians we do know now to pray for. We're praying for these individuals too, Father. If you would please build them up for their tomorrow and strengthen them when they're weak. Help them overcome whatever obstacles they may be facing. They may soon be up about their very busy task if it is your will, and we'll be so very careful to give you the glory. And now, Father, we ask your blessing upon your manservant, who shall come shortly to carry the truths. We trust, Father, that you would not allow his tongue to stumble, but he will proclaim all those things he studied, that some sin may come crying for it must not be so. And Father, when we went about, we discharge those duties you assigned our hands to do, and we can't do any more because of sickness that just may lead to death. We hope that our lives have been spent in such a way that we will one day be able to hear the welcome words of the Master saying, well done. But this is our prayer in your Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Redeemed, how I love to proclaim it. Redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed through his infinite mercy. His child and forever I am. Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed, redeemed. His child and forever I am. Redeemed and so happy in Jesus, no language my rapture can tell. I know that the light of his presence with me doth continually dwell. Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed, redeemed, his child and forever I am. I know I shall see in his beauty the King in whose law I delight, who lovingly guardeth my footsteps and giveth me songs in the night. Redeemed, redeemed, redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. Redeemed, redeemed, his child and forever I am. If you would stand as we sing another song. One comment on this. We often look at this as a song about the Lord's Supper. In truth, it's about the bread of life, which is the Word of God. So with that in mind, we'll go with the lesson. Break thou the bread of life, dear Lord, to me. As thou didst break the loaves beside the sea, within the sacred page I
since I broke the other one, I gotta use the big desk tonight. I guess the heating in here must have got the glue on the top of that podium that was made for me, because I was sitting there and I rested my arm on the side of it this morning for those of you that weren't here, and the whole top of it rolled off. I sat it back on there, but I wouldn't mess with that if I was you. You put something on there, it's going to wind up in the floor. Tonight we're taking a look at Psalm 18, at the 18th Psalm. Now we've talked before about some of these Psalms and the headings that are found at the chapter beginning. How some of them will talk about a Psalm of David, a Psalm of Asaph, and some of them will talk about upon different methods and ways in which these Psalms are to be played or uttered, where they were used or how they were used. Now we've discussed before how those headings are not part of the inspired message, but that they a lot of times do tell us who the author was or maybe what the intent was. This is one of those Psalms that has a little bit more of an explanation in the heading. And as we look upon this, the author says, to the chief musician, a psalm of David, the servant of the Lord, who spoke to the Lord the words of his song on the day that the Lord delivered him from the hand of all his enemies and from the hand of Saul. And he said, and begins this song or this hymn to be uttered. Now, when you look at this hymn, brethren, this hymn is a psalm of thanksgiving. This is a psalm of gratitude and appreciation for the protection that was given to the author. Now, here's what we understand. If we have the, y'all don't know if my voice is going to make it. If we have divine commentary, you know what divine commentary is, right? In other words, deity said this is what it is. If we have divine commentary that would point the message to us to tell us that this psalm was written by David, and that the inscription that follows along with it is also truthful and honest in its rightfulness, then we can take that heading that is left there, and although that heading itself may not be inspired, I can rest assured that the psalm is. I want you to look at 2 Samuel 22 with me. In 2 Samuel chapter 22. Now, here's the thing that we need to remember. 2 Samuel 22, if you remember the chapters in 2 Samuel, we're getting near the end of the book, right? We're near the end of the letter. The end of the letter was nearing the end of David's life, wasn't it? And in the nearing the end of David's life, here in Psalms and 2 Samuel 22, I want you to read these words, beginning in verse 1. Then David spoke to the Lord the words of this song. Watch this. On the day when the Lord delivered him from the hand of all his enemies and from the hand of Saul, and he said. Now, unless I miss my guess, that's word for word the inscription that is written above Psalm 18. Now, here's what we need to notice. Watch. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer, the God of my strength, in whom I will trust. My shield and the horn of my salvation, the stronghold and my refuge, my Savior, you save me from violence. Go back to Psalm 18. And he said, I will love you, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer. My God, my strength, in whom I will trust, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. Brother, it's the same psalm. 2 Samuel 22 is Psalm 18. Now, some have questioned if it is the same psalm, then why the variance? It is generally accepted that one of these is an updated version of the other. Now, if you will notice David's words, this is the song that I uttered on the day I was delivered. Brother, this preacher understands that Psalm 18 is the song that was recorded the day that he was delivered. And that he reiterated that song near the end of his life in 2 Samuel 22. That's the only conclusion at this point in junction that I am at that I would be able to come to as far as the timeline of when this song took place. Now, a couple of housekeeping matters, or at least one more as we delve into this psalm tonight. This is one of the 5 longest psalms in the Psalms themselves. There are 4 others that are longer than Psalm 18. You know one of those is Psalm 119, the longest psalm, the longest chapter in the entire Bible. You know that this being a long psalm, here's what I want you to understand. This is a psalm of 50 verses. We don't have the time to cover all 50 verses in the short amount of time we have tonight. But I think we can do an overview of what is discussed and get the idea of what was in David's mind when he wrote this. Now, it was written, David says, on the day that I was delivered from the hand of all my enemies and from Saul. So what I'm seeing here is all of these that are chasing David plus Saul. Saul and the army and the men that he took with him to go after David and the men that were with him. And chasing him through the woodlands, through the mountains, into the caves, into the field, chasing them everywhere they could go. He was trying to kill him. He wanted David's life to come to an end. And then that final deliverance, when Saul finally figures it out, he says, David, I haven't been right to you. And he turns and walks away from the chase. Unless I miss my understanding, David uttered the words of Psalm 18. The song that he sang on the day that he was delivered from all of his enemies and from the hand of Saul. Now, let's break this down. I want to give you some broken down points of what this song contains, and then we will look at a few aspects within it. But here's why I had those specific passages read tonight. I read through the entire psalm, and I was looking for a specific theme, I guess you will. And I believe that the first portion and the last portion of this psalm give us that theme. If you notice the first portion, David said, God, you are my rock. You are my fortress. You are my deliverer. You are my strength. You are my shield. You are the horn of my salvation. You are my stronghold. The rest of this psalm will go through discussing those different elements. Now, it may not say them specifically again, but when you look at what is being entailed, you can understand that that's what David's describing. The first 6 verses of this we would notice as David's call. Now, here's what we can consider about this psalm. Many of the psalms are songs. We understand they are songs or hymns that were sang, whatever the proper for that word. But also, many of the psalms will double as a prayer. The words of this psalm, brethren, we could utter as a daily prayer on our behalf. When you think about prayer, and I noticed in Ken's prayer that he led a moment ago, that I don't know if you've noticed it, but he may not say the same words, but Ken follows a pattern. And most people who will lead a public prayer will follow a pattern. And that pattern typically consists of uplifting and elevating God and adoration for Him, a confession of sin and wrongdoing, and a confession of understanding who God is and our appreciation to Him. A means of thanksgiving and telling our God, our Father, how much we appreciate the things He has done for us, and then following that up with making supplication to help those who are sick, to help us to remain strong, to be with us as we continually walk through this world. You notice the little acronym there? ACTS. If you ever get lost in prayer, just remember ACTS. Adoration, confession, thanksgiving, supplication. Brethren, what better way to address our Lord than in adoration of Him? And that's what you see amongst this psalm. In verses 1 through 6 is again being David's call. This call was a call for strength. Look, he says, I will love you. Oh Lord, notice this, my strength. You see, David understood who his strength was. He understood who the source of his strength was. Now, what you see within the first 6 verses of this, in fact, let's read the rest of these 6 verses. Beginning verse 3, we read 1 and 2 a while ago. It says, I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. I find it so very interesting that among the youth today who love to sing those devotional songs at camp and to bring to the youth devotionals with them, that's one of the songs that they sing. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. The pains of death surrounded me, and the floods of ungodliness made me afraid. The sorrows of Sheol, or the grave, surrounded me. The snares of death confronted me. In my distress I called, and I cried upon the Lord, and cried to my God. And look at this. He heard my voice. All the way from his temple. David understood that God's location and where he was in a place that he was not. He heard it from as far away as he is. He heard my cry, and my cry came before him, even to his ears. Is it any wonder that the Hebrews writer records that therefore we have the ability to come boldly before the throne of God? He's not talking about coming boldly with arrogance or haughtiness, but rather coming with the assuredness that we know that we have the privilege to be in the presence of God and not have to worry that He's going to destroy me for being there. You see, He has that power, He has that ability, and is that not how man would commonly look at their idolatrous gods? Those idolatrous gods who are seen as tyrants and violent, and all they want to do is just destroy everything weaker than them. Yet here is the God of heaven. When you follow His protocol, if you will, entering into His presence, notice what David said. Even from His temple, a cry came unto His ears. Brethren, when we approach the God of heaven in the way in which He has prescribed, we may then boldly come before the throne of God. I find it so interesting to note that the doorway being that Son into the most holy place, the holiest of holies now being heaven, and the Spirit and the Son together making intercession for us to take our cries and our prayers unto the Father, that our cries go to His ears. Now, brethren, if that doesn't give you pause, what does? The fact that the Ancient of Days, that God who made you from the dust of the earth, who knew who you were before you were formed in the womb, is exactly what He told Jeremiah. He says, I knew you. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Now, if that doesn't give us pause and a moment of reverence toward the God of heaven, what does? You have to understand that in these 6 verses, this is not a mechanical going through the motions. This is a heartfelt devotion to God. Notice what Paul wrote in Romans chapter 6. When it comes to a heartfelt devotion, what Paul wrote and wrote to those in Rome, in Romans chapter 6, beginning in verse 16. Actually, let's start in verse 15. He says, what then? Shall we sin because we are not under law but under grace? Certainly not. Do you not know that to whom you present yourselves servants to obey, you are that one slaves whom you obey, whether of sin leading to death or of obedience leading to righteousness? Now watch this. But God be thanked that you were slaves of sin. Yet, look, he says, here's where you were. Now let's look at where you are. You obeyed from the heart. You see, David was one who was devoted through and through. Did he make mistakes? Yes. Do we make mistakes? Yes. Does that mean because I make a mistake that I cannot continue to be devoted through and through? No, I can be just like David. I can be devoted through and through. When I make that mistake, I pick myself up, dust myself off. And look, verse 18, and having been set free from sin, became a slave of righteousness. You see, it's my choice to whom I yield myself a servant. You notice also when David says, O Lord, my strength, he understands that his strength comes from God. Romans 12:3, God is not a respecter of persons. So his strength is available to any who would desire it. But it takes obedience to him to achieve and receive it. This is a lesson that Nebuchadnezzar had to learn the hard way, didn't he? I found it so interesting the other day. I was flipping through my Facebook, and someone that we're friends with had a video on there of some Church of Lucifer nonsense. You know, people get this spotlight syndrome. They start coming up with all sorts of different church ideas in order to be recognized and visualized. And they had an enormous parade. Y'all, it looked like the Macy's Day Parade going down through this city. They had a float that was probably 50 foot tall, and it was a big old red-skinned devil with a horn and a pointy tail. And I thought, the comment that I made on there, I said, I never realized Nebuchadnezzar looked like that. You see the ignorance of people? That term Lucifer in Isaiah 14 is not referring to Satan. That is in reference to Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. And then someone brings up, I didn't realize people were still worshiping Nebuchadnezzar. That's an interesting fact. How'd I get off on that? I told y'all this morning I was going to try not to do that no more, and here I did anyway. So in the face of the enemy, David realizes where his strength is. Verse 4, the pains of death surrounded me, and the flood of ungodliness made me afraid. You see, as he was running from Saul and from any of his other enemies, can you imagine continually being chased into hiding places, and trying to get away and keep from being captured, keep from being killed on a continual basis? And that's where David found himself. He said, the pains of death, they're trying to kill me. They're trying to kill me from all around me. Everywhere, on every side. I can't go anywhere, he says, without somebody trying to take my life. Those who are ungodly, they have scared me out of my shoes. The sorrows of the grave, they're all around me. The snares of death, they've got a hold of my feet, and I can't hardly even move. In my distress, I called on the Lord, and he heard me. All the way from his temple. Here's what we see. In the face of the enemy, 1 Peter 5 verse 8, be soberly vigilant, for your adversary the devil is as a roaring lion walking about, seeking whom he may devour. We understand that in the face of the enemy, God hears. And he hears, his ears are turned unto the righteous, 1 Peter 3:12. In the next section, verses 7 through 20, we see God's answer. You see, here is David understanding that God is one whom he's calling, and that he is the one he is going to answer. Now, in this, we look for the character of God. If we were to turn back to the 7th Psalm and notice verse 11 in the 7th Psalm, we see the character of God, and what has David to the point that he understands what kind of character God has, and he understands what would be coming in him. He says, verse 11, God is a just judge, and he is angry with the wicked every day. And who does David understand is chasing him other than the wicked? He understands that in God's character, then his wrath will be revealed against him. Romans chapter 2 and verse 5. Notice, then the earth shook and trembled, the foundations of the hills quaked and were shaken. Why? Because he was angry. Folks, I don't know that this even describes the point of wrath yet. Because he was angry. You ever been in a house with someone who's angry? It's pretty easy to tell they're upset. One, they won't talk to you. Two, when you come around, they turn their back on you and walk away. Three, they're stomping through the house, and if you got an empty basement house like a mobile home or a pyramid house, you're going to know somebody's upset because you're going to hear the whole house rattling when they walk through there. Ask my wife how she knows it. Quit hitting him. It says the earth shook, the foundations quaked, because he was angry. Now I want to roll this forward into the aspect of God's wrath. Now we mentioned Romans 2 verse 5 a while ago, so let's flip over there for one quick second because I believe there are some thoughts from Romans chapter 1 and 2 that fit into this psalm quite well. Matter of fact, let's look at Romans 1 first, chapter 1 and verse 18, when Paul was chastising the Gentiles, because with the evidence that was in this world, he said, you should have known that God was real, who He was, but yet you tried to turn Him into every living creature you could think of. Notice what he says in verse 18. The wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth. Now jump over to chapter 2 and verse 5. But in accordance with the hardness of your impenitent heart, you are treasuring up for yourselves wrath in the day of wrath and revelation of the righteous judgment of God. Notice, remember what David recorded, Psalm 7 verse 11. God is just, and He can't stand the wicked. You see, justice and wickedness can't stay in the same place together. Justice is righteousness. Righteousness and wickedness have no dwelling place together. Therefore, this idea you see people walking around with tattoos and bumper stickers that say coexist, that can't happen. Righteousness and wickedness cannot dwell together. It just simply cannot. And these people in Rome, the Gentiles and the Jews alike, you see, chapter 2 was a chastisement against the Jews at that point. And he told them the rest of this. Verse 7, eternal, matter of fact, verse 6, who will render to each one according to his deeds, eternal life to those who by patient continuance in doing good seek for glory, honor, and immortality. But to those who are self-seeking do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, indignation, and wrath, tribulation and anguish on every soul of man who does evil. Notice this, of the Jew first and also of the Greek, of the Jew and the Gentile alike. Everyone, no one is going to escape the wrath of God on the day that His wrath is revealed. Notice verse 9 of Psalm 18. He bowed the heaven, he bowed the heavens also, and came down with darkness under His feet. Now the rest of this chapter of this psalm through verse 20 discusses the rapid response that God gave to David as he made this call. Verse 10, he says he rode upon a cherub and flew. He flew upon the wings of the wind. This gives us the idea of a rapid coming. When David made the call, God came. That's what the picture is giving us. As he rode upon the wings of the wind, gives us a picture of the quick moving sense in which this took place. The psalmist would also record in Psalm 104 verse 3 that the character of God walks upon the wind. So we see the ability that God has to do what He wants to do, when He wants to do it, with no time element to be in consideration. David says he rode upon a cherub, he flew upon the wings of the wind. No, drop down to, excuse me. Well, hang on, I think I've got the wrong verse in my, yeah, I do, we haven't got that for you. Look, I'm the one messed up, let me moan about it. 13, the Lord thundered from heaven, the Most High uttered His voice, hailstones and coals of fire. Watch this. He sent out His arrows and scattered the foe, lightnings in abundance, and He vanquished them. Then the channels of the sea were seen, the foundations of the world were uncovered, at your rebuke, O Lord, and the blast of the breath of your nostrils. We have a picture painted by the psalmist of the omnipotent power of God, and in verses 16 through 20 we see the deliverance that He provides. 1 Corinthians 10 and verse 13, God provides a way of escape. It's up to me to use it. The way is there. It's up to me to take advantage of it. If I don't take advantage of it, folks, guess what? That's on me. Because the way to get out is there. He sent from above, verse 16. He took me. He drew me out of many waters. He delivered me from the strong enemy, from those who hated me, for they were too strong for me. You see, if we will gain the same understanding that David had right here, that the things in this world, they're too strong for us. But with the strength that we can gain from the God of heaven, we can endure. Verses 21 through 30. show us that the faithful keep the way of the Lord. Notice verse 21 and 22 specifically. David says, "For I have kept the ways of the Lord and have not wickedly departed from my God." Let's reverse what he said right there. I've not departed wickedly from God. You know how I did it? By keeping the ways of the Lord. Psalm 119, verse 11. "Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against me." Notice 22, "For all his judgments were before me, and I did not put away his statutes from me." During all this, he says, all this time, I want to ask you, how many people can you think of, if they were being hotly pursued in the fashion that David was being pursued, would have kept their faith? I'll let that sink in a minute. You think about all of those who were put to death during the first centuries of the church. There were a lot. But look at the flip side of that. How many weren't? Because they bowed the knee to Baal. You see, there were a lot of those who obeyed the gospel and they called themselves Christians. And when Paul and Saul came knocking on their door, they relented. I ain't talking about just Saul, I'm talking about the Roman leaders as well. The Roman leaders who thought they were deity in and of themselves. They would tell those Christians, "You relent. You give up Christ and you bow down to Caesar and you'll live." And notice how many of them did. Droves. Because they were fearful. Notice what David said. "All his judgments were before me. I did not put away his statutes from me." This is the exact description of 1 John chapter 1, verses 7 to 2 and verse 2. When John talked about the different methods and means by which one could stay faithful, but when he slips, having that advocate with the Father, having that ability to be continually cleansed by the blood of his Son, if we would confess our faults unto him, knowing that he is faithful and just to forgive us of all unrighteousness. See, verse 25, he says, "With the merciful, you will show yourself merciful. With the blameless, you will show yourself blameless. With the pure, you will show yourself pure." Now look at the other side. "And with the devious, you will show yourself shrewd." In the next section of this psalm, verses 31 through 45, David talks about a strength that comes from God. In verse 31, "For who is God except the Lord? And who is a rock except our God?" He understands that God alone, 2 Kings 19, 19:19, is the source of strength, that He alone is the one who helps me to be brave, helps me to be strong. 1 Corinthians 16, verse 13. And now, what I was looking at a moment ago, I got ahead of myself. We see in verse 33, he said, "He makes my feet like the feet of deer." Brethren, I've seen deer run through the woods, and they can move pretty fast.
Yes, sir.
So here's David in the face of death, in the face of his enemies. He said, "You made me like the deer where I can get away from them." Notice he says, he says, verse 33, "You made my feet like the feet of deer, and you set me on high places. You even put me in the point where I could see them all." So I knew who was coming. You did these things. And notice verse 35. You wonder sometimes what the picture was that kept David going. Kept pushing him forward. Kept helping him to see, God, I'm not going to give up. I want you to notice verse 35. "You have also given me the shield of your salvation." If we could get it through the minds of the people in our day that salvation is only available in God, then we would have more people like David. David, in this spiritual sense, did not need another shield, because he had the greatest shield of all, the shield of the salvation of God. Now, when we drop down to verse 43, I believe there is a messianic resemblance noted here. He says, you have delivered me from the strivings of the people. You have made me the head of the nations. A people I have not known shall serve me. In Daniel 2 verse 44, Daniel talks about the kingdom that would come in the days of those kings, and that God would set up his kingdom and it would never be destroyed. Isaiah are discussing in Isaiah chapter 2, verses 2 and 3, that in the last days that God will set up his king in the mountain, in his holy mountain, and that all nations would flow unto it. So here are all nations. You see David saying, a people I have not known shall serve me, and all nations shall flow into it. And if you notice the Hebrews writer in chapter 12 and verse 28, he said, we have been given that kingdom. We haven't. So there's a messianic resemblance. Now we get into this last section, verses 46 through 50. There is a thanksgiving for deliverance. Notice 46. The Lord Jehovah lives. Blessed be my rock. Look, God is not dead. There's a preacher that discussed it. He said, look, God's not dead. He ain't even sick. How can people think that the God of heaven is dead and no longer in existence? Notice what Moses recorded in Psalm 90 and verse 2. In the 90th Psalm, the psalm that Moses wrote, in Psalm 90 and verse 2, he declared, before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, you were God. There is no existence without God. It is God who avenges me and subdues the people under me. He delivers me from my enemies. You also lift me up above those who rise against me. You have delivered me from the violent man. Therefore I will give thanks to you, O Lord, among the Gentiles, and sing praises to your name. I want to close this out. Look with me in Hebrews chapter 2. In Hebrews chapter 2, as the Hebrews writer was trying to work to help his audience, those to whom he wrote, those Jews in Jerusalem, to see that Christ is greater than the angels. That's what chapter 2 discusses. I want you to notice verse 10 with me. For it was fitting for him, to whom all things, and by whom all things, in bringing many sons to glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through suffering. For both he who sanctifies and those who are being sanctified are all of one, for which reason he is not ashamed to call them brethren. Watch this, saying, I will declare your name to my brethren. In the midst of the assembly I will sing praise to you. Back to Psalm 18, verse 49. Therefore I will give thanks to you, O Lord, among the Gentiles, and sing praises to your name. Why? Because he gave me great deliverance. David knew that the deliverance he had from all of his enemies and from the hand of Saul was God's doing. Brethren, the deliverance we have from all of those enemies around us is God's doing. May we understand that he is the one that is ever to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. You see, it is the strength of the God of heaven that keeps us going, that gives us the endurance to continue. What is our focus? The shield of his salvation. Brethren, if we will continue to stand behind that shield, there's nothing in this world that can touch us. Not one thing. The shield that quenches the darts of Satan that he flings at us and tries to bring us down with, they have no power against the shield of salvation that God gives to those who are his. It's up to me. It's up to you to use it. If there is anyone here tonight in need of responding to heaven's invitation, whether your need is to be obedient to the gospel, or if your need is expressly in the fact that maybe you need prayers for strength, for encouragement, or forgiveness, whatever your need may be, won't you come as we stand?
Days are filled with sorrow and care. Hearts are lonely and drear. Burdens are lifted at Calvary. Jesus is very near. Burdens are lifted at Calvary. Calvary, Calvary. Burdens are lifted at Calvary. Jesus is very near. Cast your cares on Jesus today. Leave your worries and fear. Burdens are lifted at Calvary. Jesus is very near. Burdens are lifted at Calvary. Calvary, Calvary. Burdens are lifted at Calvary. Jesus is very near.
Please be seated.
God sent his Son, they called him Jesus. He came to love, heal and forgive. He lived and died to buy my pardon. Empty grave is there to prove my Savior lived. Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future, and life is worth the living just because He lives.
If you'd like to be served communion, would you indicate so by raising your hand? Father in heaven, we come before you, thanking you so much for the blessed salvation that you provided for us. Realizing, Father, that it required the death, burial, and resurrection of your only Son, Jesus Christ. Pray, Father, now that we protect this loaf, that we would do so in remembrance of Him. In fun having, now as we continue our worship to you through giving, we pray that each one who gives tonight will do so as they purpose in their heart.